Marc Marquez just told the paddock that this championship should not be his, not as false modesty, as a verdict on somebody else's factory. The reigning champion sat at Silverstone, 40 points off a lead he has chased since June, and explained that the only reason he is still in this fight is that Aprilia stopped doing their job. He called it a present. He said that on merit, this recovery should have been impossible, and nobody inside the Aprilia box has stood up to argue with him. So why is the fastest package on the grid taking a public insult in silence? And what has Marc seen in that garage that the results sheet is still hiding? Riders do not say this out loud. Not in a live championship. Not about a manufacturer sitting first, second and third in the standings. Not with 10 rounds still to run. You compliment a rival's bike because it costs you nothing. Tell a rival factory their season was theirs to lose, and you have planted something that lives inside every debrief they hold for the rest of the year. Marc Marquez does not spend words like that by accident. He spent them because he has watched something happen in that garage since June and decided it is not getting fixed. Start with what Aprilia actually built this season, because the numbers are genuinely historic. 7 Grand Prix wins across the brand. Every single Aprilia rider on the grid has won a race, which no manufacturer manages by accident. At Silverstone, they took the first sprint 1-2-3 in Aprilia's MotoGP history, then locked out the podium on Sunday. After 12 of 22 rounds, the top 3 places in the World Championship are all sitting on an RSGP. Now put the other column beside it. Jorge Martin leads on 240 points. Marco Bezzecchi is 31 back. Iogura is 37 back. And the man in 4th, on 200, is riding a Ducati and missed 2 rounds of this season after surgery. That is not a manufacturer running away with a title. That is a manufacturer with 3 riders splitting the same points while one rival collects whatever falls between them. Aprilia are not giving this championship away on lap time. Their bike has not been what costs them against the man chasing them. So what exactly has? Here is what Marc said, and the wording is surgical. When you are 102 points behind the leader, if the rider and that team finish the races in a good way, it's impossible to recover. He is not saying he was too far back. He is saying the gap was uncatchable on merit, and the only variable that changed was the other side's execution. Then he named the mechanism, and he did it with a smile. The opponents give me a present. A present is not a compliment. A present is something you did not earn, handed to you by somebody who did not mean to give it. The trigger was the 7th of June, turn 1 at the Hungarian Grand Prix. Jorge Martin lost the front and collected Marco Bezzecchi, Raul Fernandez and Fermin Aldeguer in one movement. One Aprilia rider removed 3 riders from the race, 2 of them on his own manufacturer's machinery, one of them his own teammate and the championship leader. And, oh yeah, there is one more part of this, and it never made the headlines. When people say the Aprilia garage went cold after that afternoon, they picture 2 riders avoiding each other in hospitality. It runs deeper than that. The reporting out of the paddock since June says it is not only the riders who stopped speaking. The race engineers stopped speaking too. 2 sides of one box, sharing a single data pool, a single technical department, no longer talking across the aisle. And it started at the top. Massimo Rivola did not handle it privately. He went public, about his own world champion, within hours. A world champion cannot do a mistake like that, but it's done, and another lesson. He then added that he would not have disagreed with an even harsher penalty for his own rider. Martin apologised openly and asked the team to be more united than ever, because if we are one against one another, it's like shooting ourselves. Both men were right. That is exactly the problem. Once a factory boss has said that sentence out loud about the rider carrying his title bid, there is no version of the next race weekend where that box behaves normally. Bezzecchi's season came apart from that afternoon. A crash in Hungary, a crash in the Czech sprint, a crash at Assen, then a displaced left collarbone in German qualifying, surgery, and a Grand Prix missed entirely. He returned at Silverstone and took 3rd in the sprint, and there were tears at the end of it, and the paddock filed that under relief. It was never only relief. Now hold the whole thing up and look at its shape. The part of Aprilia that works was bought in. Fabiano Sterlachini, the technical director who crossed from KTM in 2024, is the man credited inside that team with turning the RSGP into the most rideable motorcycle on the grid. That is an engineering department doing its job brilliantly. 7 Wins says so. The part of Aprilia that failed is the part no outside hire can repair. 2 riders in one box chasing one title, with a boss who publicly picked a side. A championship leader and his teammate who reportedly stopped speaking in June and never sorted it out. Asked in a press conference whether the atmosphere inside Aprilia had changed, Bezzecchi gave a one-word answer. No, nobody in that room believed him, and he did not look interested in making them. People thought this season was Marc Marquez outriding a better bike. It was never that. It was Aprilia building the best motorcycle in MotoGP, and then spending an entire summer proving that a motorcycle does not run the garage. And that is what makes Marc's sentence so cold. He did not call Aprilia unlucky. Unlucky is a crash. He said that if the rider and that team had finished races in a good way, he could not have recovered. He put the rider and the team inside the same clause. 1 noun, 1 failure. So here is the verdict, and it is harder than the headline. Marc Marquez was not praising Aprilia. A compliment would have been to say their bike was too fast for him. He said the opposite. He said the bike was fast enough that losing to him should have been impossible, which means everything that went wrong somewhere other than the machine. That is an accusation, and it has a name on it. Not Martin's, whose crash was one mistake in one corner on one afternoon. Not Bezzecchi's, who has been racing with a rebuilt collarbone. The people who let a Turn 1 incident spread into a divided technical department across 2 months are the people who run the place. Aprilia will finish 2026 with the best statistics in their history and a title lead far thinner than that season deserved. 7 wins, a first sprint 1-2-3, a podium lockout, the top 3 in the standings, and a 4th-place Ducati rider telling the world he is only still here because they handed it to him. Marc Marquez has won 9 titles and erased a bigger gap than this one. What he has never done before is win one and tell you out loud that it belonged to somebody else. Aprilia have had the fastest bike since March. It was never what stood between them and this title. So can a factory that cannot keep 2 riders talking really call itself the best in the sport? Let us know in the comments below. And once you do that, make sure to click on the video appearing on your screen right now.